Okay, good evening. So we'll do Parshas Bamidbar and try and also hopefully bring out some themes that are relevant for Shavuos as well. The Kliyaka, the very first Kliyaka on the Parsha, picks up on a critical difference between this Parsha and Vayikra, the opening of Bamidbar and the opening of Vayikra. It's an interesting way of looking at the Parsha. You don't often think of it like that. The Parsha begins right inside the oil moed. Says the Kliyakar, again the very first one of a Parshas Vayikra Kasiv May oil moed. So he picks up on the distinction. Here it says Hashem spoke to Moshe Rabbeinu B'midbar Sinai ba'oil moed, in the oil moed, and there it says May oil moed, from the oil moed. What's the difference? So he says Lafisha Apamahu, that time Lo yochel Moshe l'avol oil moed kishachan alav he'onon. He couldn't enter, right? Because the onon, the cloud there, the Shekhinah was there, and therefore he could not enter the oil moed, and therefore the sound came to him. Al-Kin Hoysa HaKriya Elov May oil moed El Chutz oil moed. Moshe Rabbeinu heard it outside the oil moed, but he couldn't actually come inside. Avul be'echod be'iyar, on the first of Iyar, when this takes place, Parshas Bamidbar, K'va'ay Moshe Yochalovay El Tocha oil, then Moshe Rabbeinu could already come inside the oil, and therefore, bo ilov hadibor bo oil moed, and therefore, since he was allowed to enter the oil moed, so the dibor came to him me'al hakaperes, from on top of the kaperes, top of the Aron Kodesh, kedisa v'sof Parshas Nosoi, as it says at the end of Parshas Nosoi. Ve'ein tzarech mamash peresh Rashi sham ba'akos v'shlishi v'echriya. So he's there referencing Rashi and Parshas Nosoi asked this question. There seems to be a contradiction between the psukim. Is it inside the oil moed? Is it from the oil moed? Is it mi'ala kaperes? It's not a different psukim. Not exactly clear how the sound came to him. And Rashi brings that there are three psukim, and the third one explains how it worked. The Kliyaka says you don't have to say that. There's a simple distinction between the two, right? If the Shekhinah is there, the sound travels outside the oil moed. If the onon is not there, so to speak, he can enter the oil moed. Umasha nokat b'oil moed, and the reason why he says, the Kliyaka carries on and says, the reason why it says here in the b'oil moed, in the oil moed, lohidia tam lemisparzeh, to say the reason for this this mispar, for this number, the reason for this counting that took place in the Parsha. Since he came to rest his Shekhinah amongst them, therefore, right? The idea of resting the Hashras HaShekhinah implies that there's a permanence to the Shekhinah there. We know this from Mezuzah. You don't have a fixed dwelling place, right? It's not called a fixed dwelling place less than 30 days. Huh? Exactly. That's right. This is Alafiyah, so you've got the 30 days. That's how it works. Al-Kain, therefore, be'echod b'Nissan, on the first of Nissan, like I said, in Hilchos Mezuzah, you find if you rent till 30 days. If you buy it, it's immediate, right? But if you, that's how it is. Okay, therefore, be'echod b'Nissan, on the first of Nissan, hukam a Mishkan, the Mishkan is established. That day, the Shekhinah descends into the oil moed. At that moment, the Shekhinah is resting in the Shekhinah is resting inside the oil. The oil moed, it's been a permanence. Be'echod be'iyar. He counted them on the first of Iyar. V'lo menom techef be'echod Listen, had to have the 30 days because the dwelling hadn't been established yet for that 30-day period. That's how the Kliyaka. So the Kliyaka here, he gives in terms of pshat, he gives another number of different points here, which are very important just to understand things in terms of why it is you've got the 30-day period. Now is the permanence. Now the Shekhinah is, so to speak, established, and therefore that's why it is now the opportunity to count is there because the Shekhinah is resting there at this moment, right? Has established itself as a fixed dwelling place. But also this idea of the difference between ba'ohel moed and me'ohel moed. Vayikra is from the oil moed, and Bamidbar is inside the oil moed. Using the kliokar, it occurred to me that perhaps with this we can understand a key distinction and two different approaches in the way we approach serving Hashem. Vayikra is korbanos, as we know, right? We're trying to come close to Hashem. In that scenario, we listen to Hashem call to us from the outside, right? We need to hear that call, Hashem calling to us outside the Oel Moed and asking us to draw near, right? Odom ki yakriv mekem, to become a real Odom, to become human beings of worth and value and live our lives with that in mind and be able to be makriv, to be self-sacrificed, to bring ourselves close through korbanos. The idea of Naseh Odom, trying to fulfill that link, Odom ki yakriv and Naseh Odom. Hashem says, let us make man. So let's make man worthwhile to be called man. This is the whole essence of Vayikra. That's when Hashem calls to us from outside, and we have to be attuned to it, because otherwise we won't hear it. We can't get inside the Oel Moed. Vayikra, you cannot get inside the Oel Moed. The Onon is there. You can't get inside. You have to listen. But there are other times, right, as in Bamidbar, when Hashem, so to speak, invites us in. He counts us. He shows us that he's there and he is close to us, and this is an opportune time to be close to him, how we matter to him. And that's a different perspective. You need both. We need both. There are opportunities in life where we need to listen carefully and reach out ourselves. But there are other also moments and opportunities where Hashem shows us, I'm inviting you in. I'm telling you I'm here. You just need to be here. You need to connect to that. But you have the opportunity at this moment to actually draw close to me. This is the moment. This is what Parshas Bamidbar is. The whole essence of the counting, of the numbering, is showing, as Rashi says, chiboson nefonov, the idea that Hashem says, you matter to me, you are cherished to me, therefore I count you. And therefore, the parsha begins with the words ba'ohel moed. It's inside the oil moed. It shows that Hashem is close to us. And this, of course, is critical to understanding a connection between Bamidbar and Shavuos, because Shavuos is the second one, if you think about it, right? It is the idea, this approach, the approach of Bamidbar epitomizes what Shavuos is. Vayered Hashem al Har Sinai. Hashem descends on Har Sinai. That's what Shavuos is. Hashem says, I am telling you that I am here for you now. You have the opportunity now to connect. You know, you could even perhaps understand that when it comes to, let's say, Pesach, you have Lechtech Acharai Bamidbar. We have to follow, we have to go, we have to find it ourselves. We arrive at Har Sinai, and Hashem says, I'm here, this is my place. I'm inviting you in. And therefore, this is our opportunity. And that's the tremendous opportunity that Shavuos represents. Hashem says, I'm here for you, I'm waiting for you. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? And therefore, we have to try and understand how we can achieve this. And what are the clues we have in this parsha to help us achieve this? Now, the most famous aspect of the significance of the Midbar aspect, the Bamidbar, of course, is brought in the Baal HaTurim. It's also Gemara in Eruvin as well. The Baal HaTurim says the very first, it's the very first Baal HaTurim actually. Le'el minei, the Baal HaTurim says, K'siv Eila HaMitzvahs. The end of Vayikra, it says, these are the mitzvahs. The Somech Lei B'Midbar Sinai. Then in the next pasuk, B'Midbar Sinai. Loima to say, Imein Odom Mesim Atma K'Midbar, Eino Yochel Leida Torah or Mitzvahs. You cannot know Torah or Mitzvahs. If you don't make yourself like a desert, like a wilderness, you cannot know Torah mitzvahs. You haven't got the ability to connect to Torah mitzvahs. You haven't got the ability to connect to Torah mitzvahs. So the question is, how is this? How are we supposed to understand what that really means? There's the Gemara in Eruvin puts it like this: Mesim Odom Atzmoi K'Midbar Zeh. If a person makes themselves like this desert, like this wilderness, Shakol Doshin Boy, that everyone tramples over it, Talmudoi Miskayim Biyodoi. His Talmud, his learning, is fulfilled in his hand. We make yourself like a desert that everyone tramples over you. What does that mean? I mean, like you're supposed to. We're not supposed to walk over. We're supposed to be like as if we're nothing, and that means that Torah can remain in our possession. We have to understand what this means. Ramot Chamila has a beautiful, beautiful pshat that he develops in this, and he says like this. He says that we have to understand the distinction between two words. One is the word for coming, bo, to come, right? And the other word is to encamp. Vayachanu Bamidbar, Vayichan Sham Yisrael Neged Tahor, for example, right? And if you look carefully, those two words are used very distinctively. Beginning of Kriyas HaTorah on Shavuos morning, Parshas Yisrael, B'chodesh HaShlishi, Etzeis B'nei Yisrael Mitzrayim, B'yom Hazeh, Bo Midbar Sinai, Vayisu Merafidim, so they came to Har Sinai, they journeyed from Midim, Vayovoyu Midbar Sinai, again, they came to Har Sinai, Vayachanu Bamidbar, they encamped in the Midbar, Vayichan Sham Yisrael Neged Tahor, and they encamped opposite the Midbar. So here you have this establishment of the Machane, of the camp, three times. They come, first they came, then they encamped, and then it says that Klal Yisrael encamp, okay? The implication is, he says, that the two things are two different aspects. There is arriving at a place, and then there is encamping, and they represent two different things. You represent two different things, right? You find the same idea and the same distinction being made when Yisro arrives. Yisro arrives, and what does it say? The pasuk says, "Vayovo Yisro chosein Moshe, u'v'onav ishtal Moshe lamidbar." So they come, they arrive at Moshe Moshe Rabbeinu, right? And it's to Moshe to the Midbar. El Midbar, to the desert, asher hu choyne sham har Elokim, the place where he was encamped, the mountain of Hashem. So here is interesting, because here you find, in the first case, when they came to Har Sinai, they're doing everything, right? They're arriving, and then they're setting up camp, right? You can understand there's just two stages of arrival, right? Here, you have Yisro arriving, and he meets and encounters an encampment. He encounters the encampment, Ashehu Choyne Shom, that they were encamped there. So the question of understanding and the way, as is so often the case in the Torah, if you want to understand what something means, a concept means, you need to go back to the first occasion, right? Where's the first occasion that you find in the Torah the use of the word encampment? It's a good question, good quiz question, right? Any idea? Yes. Yeah, well, very good. It's not the Akedah, So Jeremy says it's Yaakov. Wow. Okay. Where with Yaakov? I'm not going to leave it like that. I can't leave it like that. Where exactly? By Yishlach, yes. Very good. No. Where does it say a person encamping? You're right. So that's the concept of a camp, or a machane. But where is the word used? The verb vayichan, right? Vayichan, and he encamped. Okay. It is in Vayishlach. Vayovo Yaakov Sholem Yershchem Asher Beretz Canaan, right? Yeah. Bavoyo mipadan Aram. He came from Aram. Vayichan es pnei ha'ir, and he encamped by the city. There's a fascinating medrash. The medrash says, right, on those words, Vayichan. What does it mean? He encamped at pnei ha'ir. He encamped facing the city. What does that mean? Says the medrash, Nichnas be'erev Shabbos im dimdumei chama miba'od yom. He entered on erev Shabbos where the sun's rays were setting. He established Tchum Shabbos. He established the Tchum Shabbos. The board fixed the limits, the border, the Tchum, the way how far you can walk. Hada Omra, says the Medrash. From this we see Sheshimer Yaakov as a Shabbos. The Yaakov guarded the Shabbos. He kept Shabbos. Kodim Shenitan, before it was given. So this Medrash is fascinating because the Medrash is taking the word Vayichan es pnei ha'ir and saying the Vayichan doesn't just mean encamping, right? It doesn't just mean you encamp somewhere. It means you rest. It's a Shabbos meaning, right? You rest. You have security. You have the tranquility of Shabbos. That's how the Medrash does. That's what the Medrash does with the word. The word encampment, he encamped the city, the Medrash understands, refers to arriving on Erev Shabbos, setting things up, and preparing for Shabbos. Therefore, says Ramot Chamila, like this, that the word boy, to arrive, that means arriving in a place. But the word to encamp means to have a sense of tranquility, of rest. And it says, Reb Tzadok HaKohen says that when it says, Vayovoyu midbar Sinai, Vayachanu Bamidbar, right, in Parshas Yisrael, they arrived at Midbar Sinai, they came. They came to the place where they could connect spiritually. Vayachanu Bamidbar, they rested in the Midbar in the sense that they were able to remove themselves from the idea that they would find happiness, they would find tranquility in the pursuit of everything that Olam Hazeh, this world, has to offer, right? That's what it means by Yachanu Bamidbar. It's a Shabbos sense. What is the essence of Shabbos? What is the essence of the Menucha of Shabbos? Chaim Friedlander, he doesn't talk about this, Chaim Friedlander develops this and others, of course, as well. Kilu kol malachtucha asuyu, right? The idea that your work is done. You're not aiming anymore on Shabbos for that period of time. You're not aiming for everything else you aim for during the week. You're aiming for something higher. That's the whole idea. That's what Shabbos is. Yaakov Avinu, when he comes and arrives at the Shechem, the Medrash says, he keeps Shabbos. He keeps Shabbos. And the idea, therefore, is he's achieving harmony. That's what V'yichan means. V'yichan means to achieve harmony in the sense of reassurance, realization that actually what I should be pursuing as higher ideals in life, and not just whatever it is, making enough money in this world, or all the temptations of Olam Hazeh. Not that that's not important, but just that's not the ideal. The ideal is to actually become one. And then that, of course, is what leads to the idea of Vayichan Shom Yisrael Neged Hahar, and the idea Rashi says Ki Esh Echad B'Leiv Echad. What does it mean Ki Esh Echad B'Leiv Echad? The idea of Ki Esh Echad B'Leiv Echad as one person, one heart, is a transcending of this world, where it's not that every person is there, so what's in it for me? What more can I take out of things? No, because you're in a state of Vayichan. You're in a state of resting, of tranquility, of a higher ideal that enables you to be able to see everyone else. Literally, Ki'esh Echad B'Leiv Echad. And I think this is such a beautiful idea. And again, he doesn't mention this specifically, but I think this is a way we can take it even further. How do we arrive at Shabbos? How do we begin Shabbos? With Boi Kala, right? With this idea of coming, the arrival. The Boi Kala is the arrival. You begin Shabbos. We go into Shabbos with an understanding that we first have to arrive, and only then can we get to the Vayichan, to the encampment. That's the aim. It's a second stage. The whole way through the Kabbalah shows is about arriving, right? It's getting there. Then we have to encamp. Then we have to rest. What does therefore it mean when it says in the Medrash that in Mesim Odom Atzmoika Midbar, right? If a person makes himself like a desert, Shakol Doshin by that people can trample over, it doesn't mean that we become a walkover. It means that we understand and internalize the fact that what we achieve in this world will not lead to our ultimate happiness in life. That's not what's going to lead to real, true tranquility, a real menucha in that sense. The real path, the path that will enable us to get there, and the path which therefore opens us up to the Torah, is a sense of acceptance, that we need to rest in a Shabbos mode. We have to aim for a Shabbos mode all the time, right? And the idea, that's what it means to make ourselves like a midbar, like a desert, in the sense that we're not looking for this world. We're not looking for what the things that grow in this world and tempt us in this world, right? The desert doesn't have any of that. The desert doesn't have any of that, because in the desert you can only aim for higher ideals. You can't aim for this. Well, you can't. It doesn't grow. You can't. You want to try and grow things in the desert. It's not going to work. That's the point, right? And that is the pathway towards Ki'esh Echad B'Leiv Echad. You don't have the competition. You're not like, I'm not looking to outdo anyone else because I realize there's higher ideals. I don't mind. On the contrary, I want to unite with others so we can both achieve more together. That's the idea. And of course, this also explains the difference between Yisro and Moshe. If you look throughout, there's a consistent theme. This difference between the way Yisro approaches things and the way Moshe Rabbeinu approaches things have this consistent distinction. Yisro symbolizes someone who is never at rest. He's never at peace. Why? Because he's always searching. Now that's good in a way, in the sense that we know Yisro tries everything out, and he doesn't like it, eventually eventually he finds a God. It's not a negative in that sense, but he's never at the stage of Vayichan. He's never there. He's never at that tranquility. Stop. To encamp and to realize, actually, there's something more than just arriving at a place. There's something more than that. And you see that in the Pesukim, Moshe Rabbeinu is the one who represents the ability to transcend this world. Right? Shvu lachem la'aleichem. After Matan Torah, you go back to your tents. Everyone else has to get on with their lives, but you can stay here. You can remain in a sense of Shabbos. You can remain in that peace, that sense of tranquility, and that's where Moshe Rabbeinu remains. Yisro never reaches that height, and on the contrary, he is always searching. He is always wandering. What happens when he's going to leave? Vayomer elov lo yelech. Right? Moshe Rabbeinu says, "Please stay." No, I've got to wander still. I can't stay. I can't. I've got to move again. Vayoma al not hazover sonu. What does he say? Ki al kain yodata chanosenu b'midbar. You should have sensed our encampment in the midbar. You should have been able to realize by now that the aim is not to always wander. The aim is not to always look for more in this world. The aim is to realize ultimately that there is a reposing, there's a resting, there's a chanosenu, there's an encampment in the midbar. She translates, based on Targum Onkelos, you have seen our experience with your own eyes. Normally we translate you were eyes for us. Onkelos says that it means you've seen it with your own eyes. You've witnessed what it means to be encamping in the midbar. That should have meant something to you, right? And that's what he wanted to convey. It's a beautiful, beautiful piece. It's a beautiful idea because it explains the significance of the midbar and explains the idea of what it means by Yichan Sham Yisrael Neged Har. The Klal Yisrael are able to arrive through internalizing the message of the midbar, the message of the desert, why the Torah has to be given in the desert. That if we live in the world, in this world, always searching for more of this world, we will never arrive at the level of tranquility which enables us to strive for higher ideals. And that is essentially what and that's what we need in order to achieve what the Torah wants us to achieve. And that, of course, is the idea of Shavuos, and I think it links beautifully to how we started, which is the sense that the difference in Vayikra and Bamidbar, right? Vayikra, where you have to hear it, and we have to make come on Shavuos. Bamidbar, the sound comes out from Elmod. On Shavuos and Bamidbar, HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, "You're in the place. I'm inviting you in. I'm inviting you in to connect." Let me share with you one other idea. A few more minutes that we've got. That I heard beautifully expressed just this week at the conference in Munich by Rav Lau, Chief Rabbi of Israel. He brought Ramban. Ramban, Perek Gimel, Tosig Yadalet on Shevet Levi. So Shevet Levi is extremely puzzling in the numbering, right? In the numbering. Why is Shevet Levi so puzzling? Says the Ramban. It's Perek Gimel, Tosig Yadalet. Let's just find out. How you done? Pardon? Maybe it's later on. Here. Sorry, my mistake. It's not Yud Daled. It is on Posuk. It is Posuk Yud Daled, but it's printed later on. Okay. Unless there's a mistake here, it's Mem Dalet. No, it's Mem Dalet. There's a mistake in this. That's why I wrote Dalet. It's a mistake in this Chumash. It's anyway, it's Pasuk Mem Dalet, right? Pasuk Mem Dalet, right? Take the Levium in place of the B'chorim. Now the Ramban says, Vinay, second paragraph. Lo hoyu shevet Levium shashvotim. They weren't like the other shvotim. There are only 22,000 of them, right? That were from a month old. Right? And from 30 years old, they're all 8,000. It's an astonishing thing, right? You're including the children, right? So there's a lot more. Fine, leave aside the children, right? But from 20 years and above, they didn't arrive at even half the numbers of the smallest of all the other shvotim, right? V'adayla nosu ha'aron. We know that some of them perished because they were carrying the Aron, they couldn't stand up to the Kedusha, so maybe you want to suggest as the Ramban, maybe that's why they reduced in numbers, because the Aron was Machale Bohem. It's a Gemara, as Chazal say that Aaron reduced their numbers because of the Kedusha. How can they be so small? How can it be that Shevet Levi is so much less that the adults of Shevet Levi are not even half? You with me? Half the number of the smallest, if you work it out, the smallest of the other Shvatim. Very surprising, he says. He says like this. The reason is like this. By the way, that Barbanel gives another pshat that basically he says Poshet pshat. He says it's Hashkochas Hashem because since they were. This is a simple pshat. Since they were low, Hashem arranged it that they would be less in numbers because otherwise they would be at the end of the day. They were the ones. They had to be supported by others when they got into Eretz Yisrael. They wouldn't have their own chelek and nachala. And therefore Hashem said they shouldn't be so many, because if there be too many, they wouldn't have any food. Basically, they had to sustain themselves based on the largesse of the rest of the people. So if there were huge numbers of them, they might have starved. That's what Barbanel says. The Ramban says like this: they were not involved in the Melechas Mitzrayim and the Avodas Perach, the backbreaking labor. They were reduced in number because they suffered from avodas perach. The rest of the Klal Yisrael, they were put into slavery. Therefore, Hakadosh Baruch Hu was mar ba'osom k'neged gezeres Mitzrayim, kein yirbeh v'chein yifrod. Right, because they were being persecuted, Hashem increased their number. Okay, and that's how it is. And also, where they're throwing them in the river, the babies, etc., etc. Okay. But Shevet Levi Ha'Koyim V'Rovim K'derech Kol Haaretz. They just replicated as normal. But that they didn't have that bracha that the others had, where because they were being persecuted, therefore Hashem increased their number. Right? Right? Hashem says, you're telling me they won't increase. I'm telling you they will. Right? Okay. And he goes on to suggest something else as well as a possible reason for this. Rav Lau said very simply, what you learn from here is that ultimately what challenges us effectively makes us stronger. The rest of Klal Yisrael came out stronger. They came out greater in number and stronger. They suffered terribly in Mitzrayim, but ultimately it's a message. It's understanding the deeper message behind what the Rabban says. He was linking it to the whole theme of the conference was about post the Magefa, the Corona. How we can come out some way stronger overall from a trying and difficult time. He's saying, you see from this Ramban that Shevet Levi ultimately didn't have that challenge, and therefore they actually were ultimately less in number. The rest of Klal Yisrael, right, who went through that immense challenge, some ultimately emerged stronger. Because as is so often in life, the message for life is so often the case that what challenges us in life ultimately means that we can come out stronger. And that's a message of the reduced numbers of Shevet Levi compared to the rest of Klal Yisrael, which I thought was a beautiful idea. I wish you all a very good Shabbos and a good Yom Tov. Thank you for joining.
Thank you very much.
Pleasure. Thank you.